Imagine being charged not for driving dangerously, but for being in possession of illegal saliva. Not impaired, not unsafe. Just saliva. That's the reality under current driving laws. A system that punishes chemistry instead of behaviour. Tonight, Relief and Healing unpack how this misclassification keeps evidence out and confusion in.
Illegal saliva sounds like satire, but it's the actual legal position. And it's the clearest example of what happens when a substance is put in the wrong regulatory category.
Because once cannabis was misclassified, everything downstream was built on that mistake, including driving laws. They weren't designed around behavior, they were designed around chemistry.
Exactly. Alcohol laws measure impairment. Cannabis laws measure presence. And presence is meaningless without context.
Presence is biology. Impairment is behavior. The law treats them like the same thing, and people pay the price for that confusion every day.
And the proposed reform in New South Wales doesn't fix the category error. It just adds more steps to the same broken logic.
Which means people who use cannabis responsibly, including patients, are still treated as if they're dangerous, even when they're not impaired at all.
The science is clear. The Lambert Initiative has shown that impairment is time-limited. Presence is not. But the law keeps pretending they're interchangeable.
And that's why we're here. To separate the myth from the evidence. To show how misclassification creates confusion, and how confusion becomes punishment.
And to explain why purpose-based regulation is the only way out of this mess.
Because when you regulate behavior, you protect people. When you regulate biology, you punish them.
So let's talk about how we got here. And how we get out. Every time we talk about driving laws, we run into the same puzzle. A puzzle that refuses to go our way. Why does the law keep treating cannabis as if it behaves like alcohol?
And why does that mistake survive every reform attempt? It's like the system can't imagine cannabis having its own category, its own logic, its own science.
Because the puzzle isn't about driving, it's about classification. Once cannabis was put in the wrong regulatory category, everything downstream was built on that foundation.
And that's why the puzzle keeps coming back. You can't solve a problem built on the wrong assumption.
There's a hidden assumption most people never see. The idea that cannabis behaves like alcohol. It's never stated outright, but it's baked into every part of the law.
And once that assumption is in place, the system stops asking the right questions. It stops asking what impairment actually is. It stops asking how behavior works. It stops asking what the evidence shows.
Instead, it asks, is THC present? And that's not an impairment question. That's a chemistry question.
Presence is biology. Impairment is behavior. The law treats them like the same thing, and that's where everything starts to break.
Once cannabis is in the wrong category, the wrong assumptions follow automatically.
And those assumptions create the wrong tests. They're tests that detect presence instead of impairment.
Which produce the wrong laws. They're laws that punish people for biology instead of behavior.
And those laws create the wrong outcomes. People losing licenses, jobs, and dignity even when they're not impaired at all.
Once the category is wrong, everything downstream follows. Assumptions, tests, laws, outcomes. It's a cascade.
And every reform that ignores the category error just repeats the same mistakes with new packaging.
This science is clear. The Lambert Initiative has shown that impairment is time-limited. It rises, peaks, and fades. Usually within a few hours.
But THC presence doesn't behave like that. It lingers. It stores, it metabolizes slowly. It can be detected long after impairment is gone.
So when presence is treated as impairment, it simply doesn't line up with the evidence.
And the proposed New South Wales reform doesn't fix that. It adds more steps, more bureaucracy, more hoops. But it still treats presence as the problem.
Because it still refuses to correct the category error.
And this isn't abstract, it affects real people. People who use cannabis responsibly. People who use it medically. People who rely on it for relief, stability, and dignity.
People who are safe drivers, but who live under the threat of losing everything because of a test that can't tell the difference between impairment and biology.
We've spoken to patients who plan their entire lives around avoiding police checkpoints. Not because they're impaired, but because they're afraid of being punished for their saliva.
That isn't safety. It's stigma dressed up as enforcement. The solution isn't complicated. It's just unfamiliar to a system built on old assumptions.
You regulate behavior, not biology. You measure impairment, not presence. You build laws around purpose, not prejudice.
Purpose-based regulation is simple. What is the behavior? What is the risk? What is the evidence? What is the appropriate response?
And once you follow that logic, the confusion starts to fall away. Clarity returns. Dignity returns. Evidence returns.
And the law finally protects people instead of punishing them.
So that's the heart of it. Impairment is behavior. Presence is biology. And the law needs to know the difference.
Because until it does, the puzzle will keep coming back, and people will keep paying the price for a mistake the law refuses to correct.
But once the category is corrected, everything downstream can finally make sense.
At the end of all this, it comes back to people, their lives, their safety, their dignity. And that's why this conversation matters.
And when the law finally sees people clearly, it can finally protect them. Clarity isn't just policy, it's dignity. Thank you for being part of that journey.
Clarity isn't a luxury. It's a beginning. Every pathway starts with a step, and every step begins with understanding. Tonight, Bill and MJ trace the line between impairment and biology, and why the law keeps confusing the two. Next time, on Pod Talks, we follow that line into its consequences. The cost of confusion. How misclassification shapes everyday life.